welcome to another edition of Drinking with Dana. So good to see all of you here already, and thank you to Winter Investors for subscribing already. 10 months. My God, that's a long time. Long time to put up with me. So thank you very much for your enabling. I also want to make a quick announcement. Apparently today is National Taco Day and National Vodka Day, and I didn't realize till this morning, so I was sadly unable to reflect that in today's offering. So next year I will have to mark my calendar and see what we can do. Let's see. So, Morning Wind, good to see you out there. Ska, hi, hello, how's it going? Well, no, I can't move that forward right now. And, of course, Winter Vespers, good to see you, too. Let's see. Let's just start off with the first drink today. Let's start off with the first drink. Today, we're starting off with a non-alcoholic drink called a Not-a-Colada. And it is pretty much what it sounds like. It is a non-alcoholic take on a Pina Colada, which you will remember from episode 115. I did the alcoholic version of it there, if you want to take a look and see what I talked about with the history and all that. So I'm not going to really get into that too much. This is, like I say, a non-alcoholic take on it. So it's not just a Pina Colada with the alcohol removed. It's instead, so the recipe is from Derek Brown's book, which is called Mindful Mixology, a comprehensive guide to no and low alcohol cocktails with 60 recipes. And I got this reprinted on Epicurious, which is, I believe, Bon Appetit's website, as well as a few other things. Southern Cooking is, I think, on there. A few other things like that. Anyway, so Derek basically kind of had the same opinion I did, that if you wanted just a Pina Colada without any alcohol in it, that doesn't take a lot of work to do. You already have the recipe. It's been well established. But this aims to actually taste more like a Pina Colada without the alcohol, but it tastes more like the original. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. So... Oh, Morning Wind says, cute hearts. I put some hearts in the emoji. I've been starting to actually go out and watch more DJs here on Twitch, which means my emoji collection is growing again. For a while, they kind of faded apart as I was busier and busier and had less time for that. Let's see. So a couple notes about this recipe. So first, I have simple syrup listed, but the recipe actually calls for something called Steen's Pure Cane Syrup. And it's apparently a ingredient often used in Creole and Cajun cooking. Now, I'm completely unfamiliar with it, but I'm taking their ad copy for their word there. Like I say, I never even heard of this stuff, but apparently it's more like raw cane syrup, so it's got more of a molasses flavor to it. So I might try and substitute in or add in a couple drops of molasses to see if that changes anything from when I made it before. And the other thing is, it calls for a hurricane glass. This is not going to fill a hurricane glass. Unless you have very tiny hurricane glasses. So, on that note, let's get started. 3 ounces of pineapple juice. I just used the Dole 100% pineapple juice in a can. These things are nice because you can just keep them in the fridge and have pineapple juice whenever you want it. It's not the best pineapple juice in the world. Obviously, if you want to squeeze a pineapple, that would be ideal, but if you don't, Trader Joe's is also very good, but we don't keep that in the house because we drink too fast and we shouldn't have that much sugar. So I keep these on hand for most of the time. All right. Then I'm going to use 2¼ ounces of cream of coconut. Again, I like the Coco Real in the squeeze bottle. It's very nice. This has been in the pantry, which has been getting cold. So hopefully this is warmed up enough so that it'll actually squeeze out nicely. So here's one and about 1¼ there. About a little bit more. There. So, and again, I'm just using my finger because I'm the only one drinking this, and I don't really care. So, all right, Lori might drink some of it, but I don't think she's going to mind. Also, don't tell her. She's in, right now, feeding her Baldur's Gate 3 addiction. So, I don't think she's actually going to hear me. So, how's everyone doing? I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. Anything exciting going on for anyone? I know I promised you all that apple cake recipe video, and it is on its way, but I got mixed up with the weekends. Basically, my brother's going to do a apple squishing party, and I'm going to go over to that and bring the apple cake, because it's a big potluck thing. And I was thinking it was going to be last weekend, but it's actually next weekend. So I'm going to make it on Friday night, and I'll post the video hopefully sometime this weekend. So we'll find out. All right. So now, like I say, actually, let me do the vanilla first, just because I want to open up the. So as usual, I'm just going to use one of the syringes. Sterile syringe that I have for my injections, just to get some vanilla, because otherwise getting drops of this is tricky at best, because I don't have a bunch of squeeze bottles lying around. So I need 3 drops of it. 1, 2, and 3. I'll put the rest of it back in there. And since I have this syringe here, just tear off a little corner of paper towel and get some of that extra vanilla out. And then I'm going to try and siphon up some of this molasses. Now, I haven't tried this before. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to get some of the molasses in a 1 ml syringe, so wish me luck. Oh, actually, no, that worked remarkably well. Now, we're not going to get discrete drops, but I'm going to put as close to 1 drop of this in here as I can. And that's all I'm going to put in for right now. And that's to go with the simple syrup, which I'm about to add as well. But now I've got molasses on my fingers. All right. And yes, I know this doesn't. I try and stick to ounces as my measurement for most things, but a teaspoon is a 1/16 of an ounce, which is really hard to measure. So it's easier just to use a teaspoon at this point. So we want 1 teaspoon of simple syrup. The drop of molasses is not going to affect much here. And also, Lori, when I made the test batch of this, or test version of this, she said it could use a little extra sweet for her anyway. But as we all know, Lori has an incredible sweet tooth. All right. Morning Wind says, "You're good. I always have a heavy hand with vanilla." I do too. The only thing that worried me is that I tried to just pour in 3 drops, and it didn't really work. And the final product had basically the beginning of the taste of it tastes a little bit like vanilla yogurt, and I'm trying to avoid that. Or, well, I'm not trying to avoid that because it didn't taste bad. It was just I want to capture what Derek Brown was going for here. So, but yes, I agree with you. I always a little slapdash with the vanilla myself. Um, have a heavy hand with it, I should say. So what I'm adding now is the apple cider vinegar. And again, just a teaspoon of that. And this is going to give some of the funkier flavors that alcohol would normally have. It also gives the somewhat yogurty flavor I think I was talking about. So, yeah, it's not something I'd normally put into things. I don't think I've ever actually had like kombucha, but it's a I don't know. I think it works in this. So, and now the last thing I'm going to add, I think I've got everything. So I've got the 3 ounces of pineapple juice, 2 1/4 of cream of coconut, 1 teaspoon simple syrup, 1 teaspoon cider vinegar, 3 drops vanilla extract. I added a drop of molasses to make it at the hopefully closer to the Steen's pure cane syrup. And the last thing is 6 drops of a salt tincture. Now, salt tincture is basically just 1 part salt to 4 parts water, and I stuck it in this little bottle. I happen to have a dripper or dropper bottle. I have no idea where I got this. I should probably buy more of them. But anyway, so yeah, just 6 drops of this. And, come on. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Also, was it just me or did our lights flicker just a minute ago? I don't know if anyone else saw that. Let's see. Morning Wind says, to be honest, my first thought when I saw this recipe, I thought vanilla ice cream would be good under this. Honestly, I wouldn't say no. But it's not, it doesn't end up that thick. You would think that, actually, you may or may not think, with the amount of cream and coconut in there, that it might be, too heavy. It might be kind of syrupy, but it actually is, fairly thin, fairly drinkable. The recipe says add half a cup of ice to this. I will tell you, this is not going to pulverize the ice well enough to get a nice smoothie texture out of it. It's going to end up kind of on the rocks, but I'm going to do what I can. I need to get a better blender one of these days, but it's not in the budget right now. So it's going to be loud in a second here. One of the big chunks out of there. It's roughly half a cup. And I'm going to have to dry this out quick, just because I'm going to need it for the next thing. All right. Put the lid on. And I'm going to turn on high and use the ice crush feature, which isn't going to work. Now, I will say, this, as I said earlier, this is a small drink. If I had doubled or even tripled it, it might crush up the ice better. This is barely, going to get a grip on it. When I made it before, it was a fairly heavy drink, and I'm not sure I'm up to drinking more than a single of these right now. So, let's go. You can hear right at the end there, it kind of crackles a bit. That's the ice finally getting back down to the blades instead of riding on top of all the liquid up on the sides. That's why I'm kind of pulsing it a bit, hoping that at least some of it gets chewed up a little. But what we do want is it to get nice and foamy and aerated at least. And let's see how it is. Hello, beautiful.
I was like, gonna come in here and hang out, and then you just kept blendering.
Sorry. For those who didn't hear, Lori has arrived. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Let me see if I can fire up the back camera here. Oh, come on. There it goes. There we are. And let's see. There. Kind of see how it looks anyway. It looks like a Pina Colada. And by the way, Morning Wind and Winter Vespers both say hi, Lori.
Hello.
So, all right. Back to... Okay. Let's give it a taste and see how it is. Very nice. It does, again, have that yogurty flavor I was mentioning, which, again, is not bad. It's very nice. The vanilla really does come through. Let me take it for the top and see what we get. So you get the coconut cream, not so much as coconut, but just kind of the creamy texture with the pineapple flavor right off the top. And then it kind of transitions into that vanilla yogurt, and I assume some of the flavor from the cider vinegar. I don't assume that that's what it's got to be from, but it's, there blends together nice and smooth. Very sweet drink. Very vanilla. It would be interesting.
Pineapple at the end.
Well, why don't you try it here?
Because I tried it last time and it hits my milk problem.
Oh, yes. So Lori did try this. It's not that she thought it was bad, but she has a problem with certain textures, like milk products especially. So what I'm going to do here, because I forgot to do this before, is try a little bit of nutmeg on it. Because I think that would be that might improve it a little bit.
But not too much nutmeg.
Not too much nutmeg. Lori's referencing a channel we watch called Outside Xbox, and they do a lot of video game stuff. And they decided to do a series of making video game based cocktails, or cocktails that were found in video games. And in one of them, they were going to add like a quarter cup of nutmeg to it because they did the math wrong. And someone looked it up later and realized that was enough to kill a person. So, yeah, it's been an ongoing thing on that channel and people who watch it that you shouldn't add too much nutmeg to something. A little bit more. One more. All right. And yes, there is a lethal dose of nutmeg, as it turns out.
For those of you who write mystery stories or perhaps want to create one of your own.
To be honest, I don't think you could ingest that much nutmeg without something being very, very wrong. All right, so let me try it with the nutmeg. Yeah, definitely changes the aroma because you're getting a ton of nutmeg on the top. Doesn't really impact the flavor, though, that much. A little bit, though. I think it actually heightens the pineapple a bit. Although that might just be it separating a little bit more. Well, it doesn't really look that separated. So, here. I think it's an improvement. At the very least, it makes it look pretty. So that is the first drink for today, a Not-a-Colada. And I do have, by the way, some more non-alcoholic drinks set up for, say, Halloween, for the Halloween Spooktacular, actually. But if you stumble across any, just let me know, and I will give them a try. So, for some reason, I think I've said before that one of the things I'm looking for is something that actually reads as a cocktail, but doesn't have alcohol in it, but that you don't just buy like non-alcoholic gin or other non-alcoholic spirits. And, things like that. And the problem is that once you do that, you end up just making a ton of syrups that you're not going to use for anything else. I think it was a couple weeks ago, I made I guess it was a while. No, it was 2 weeks ago. I made the basil fennel syrup for that drink, and I have another one that's just a basil syrup that you'd make separate, and other things like that. So I found a few. I found a good site called mocktails.com, I think it is, or mocktails.net, one of the two. I'll tell you next week because I think I'm going to use a recipe from there. And it's got a ton of good drinks, but I had to go out and buy a bunch of different juices and that kind of thing. So we'll see what comes of it. All right, so a lot of people in the chat saying that it looks yummy and they would like to try it. Well, like I say, I recommend it. Please give it a try. Let me know what you think. If anyone out there makes these, and tries them, let me know in the chat or in the comments or wherever you can so I get some feedback, because my tastes are not going to be the same as yours. That's one of the reasons why I have Lori taste these alongside, so we get at least two perspectives on it, two very different perspectives. So let's see. Winter Vesper says also mace. I think nutmeg and mace would come from the same plant. They have a small amount of poison. Yes, that is true. I'm sorry, that was Winter Vespers who said that. Yes, there are a lot of plants like that we use for spices or other things that have just a little bit of poison. Like apple seeds have just a little bit of poison in them, so it's but not enough to really ever worry about. You'd have to eat so much that it would just be ridiculous. Let's see. Leave that there for now. All right. So, on to the food for tonight, which is pesto. And I'm not going to lie. I'm making pesto tonight because I had to harvest my basil, and this was a good chance to actually turn it into pesto, and I figured I'd, share what I knew about pesto. It's, basically, I plant basil every year and use it all through the summer with our tomatoes for, all sorts of things. And then at the end of the year, I take whatever I have left and turn it into pesto, and then freeze most of it, and just use it all winter long as pasta topping. Quite frankly, a pasta sauce. Let's see. The recipe list changed. Oh, I screwed that up. Here, let me see if I can fix this.
Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you for letting me know, yes. And see if anything weird goes on, let me know here.
If anything weird goes on, blame Lori.
Yeah. All right. There, does that look fixed? It looks fixed on my end, so hopefully it's fixed for you too. And I do have the recipe right, which is really the key thing. But thank you for letting me know about that. Okay.
I'll be back later.
Okay, Lori is heading out. So let's see. History of pesto. Basically, pestos have been made forever. At least we've tracked it back since to the Roman Empire, probably before then. although it wasn't until later that olive oil was added to it. So it was originally, pesto basically means a paste. Also, Morning Wind says that it's corrected on the video, so thank you. Like I say, a pesto is just a paste. They used to grind together the pine nuts and the basil and some cheese together in a mortar and pestle. Later on, they added the olive oil to it, which I believe was for food preservation. It kept your herbs, better longer, and you could use it all winter long. So let's see, but so it's apparently believed that the first modern version of pesto, because they did all sorts of different things to it over the years, but the first modern pesto was made in 1863 by Giovanni Battista Ratto in his book La Cucini. I could pronounce this earlier. La Cuciniera Genovese. So, or Genovese. I've never figured out which is the authentic pronunciation there. But really, like I say, this is more of a technique than a recipe, because just about anything can be made into a pesto. You frequently find you can change the herbs out, for one thing. So I've seen a recipe that called for a parsley pesto, or I don't think I've seen a chive pesto, but I've seen other herbs used for pestos. Oh, I've seen a spinach pesto, which doesn't seem as interesting to me, but I'm sure it works in context. You can also change out the nuts that you make this with. So instead of pine nuts, which are also called pignoles, I think is how you pronounce it, you can use, I've seen walnut pestos, and just all sorts of other herbs, other nuts in there. And apparently in Italy, the type of pesto is very regional. So I didn't write down what they are per region, but other pestos in different regions of Italy contain breadcrumbs, anchovies, tomatoes, bell peppers, lemon zest, parsley, etc. So just all sorts of things that they put into these, and it's basically their regional sauce. So, but the one we're going to make tonight is, I guess, what most people think of when they think of pesto, which is a basil pesto with pine nuts. I got this recipe from Epicurious ages ago. Again, Epicurious. I got a lot of stuff from them back in the day. Now they limit you to a couple of free recipes a month or something like that, so I've kind of gone off them. Although I should pay for it because, journalism, hard work, and all that, but I'm cheap and poor and trans. Actually, trans doesn't factor into it. I'm just cheap and poor. All right. And this is where I say donations are always appreciated, but never required. I appreciate everyone who subscribes and everyone who just shows up. I really appreciate you being here. All right. So let's just start this off. So one of the tricks that they show you with this, which I actually really appreciate, I've got 3 large garlic cloves here, and see, they're very large actually. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this little centerpiece here on my Cuisinart. I'm going to start it going, and then I'm just going to drop the cloves in, and they bounce around in there, and they chop up very finely that way. And the reason that's handy is normally with a food processor, if you just put your cloves of garlic in there, they'll get kind of chopped up and then stick to the sides, and that's it. You have to scrape the sides, and you have to keep scraping the sides forever. In this case, because they bounce around like that, they get actually chopped fairly fine just on the first go. They're still going to be sticky because they're still garlic, and garlic sticks like crazy, but it's not too bad. All right, so the way I do this is I add things a bit at a time. So I'm going to add the pine nuts and the cheese next. I am just using Trader Joe's dry roasted pinoles or pine nuts here. I used to use their raw ones and then toast them in the oven, and that's a pain in the butt because you always get one or two that decide to burn while the others are still raw, and it's just getting the ones that are pre-toasted is the way to go, in my opinion. So, all right, add those in. And now we need 2 ounces. Oh, and by the way, half a cup of pine nuts is about 2.5 ounces. So, and this pack is 8 ounces. Now, pine nuts aren't cheap, but, like I say, 8 ounces will go make like 2.5 batches. Actually, 3 batches with a little bit left. So, it's not too bad if you, especially when you're going to eat this stuff all winter long. Anyway. Still good. All right. I am going to now cut 2 ounces of Parmesan. Now, this is a place where having a good Parmesan really makes a difference. I highly recommend getting a decent Parmesan for this. I got this at Whole Foods. It's their, it's their Matica Parmesan Reggiano. Oh, yeah. It's a Parmesan Reggiano. It just misprinted. It's a 24-month aged. Anyway, get decent Parmesan for this. It's worth it. If you can't, just find something in a wedge at your grocery store. Please, if you at all can, don't get the stuff in the green can for this. And of course, because I didn't open this up earlier, it's being a pain. I'm fighting with my cheese. All right. So, see how much. See if that's roughly 2 ounces. Change it from grams to ounces there. All right, it's 1.35, so. 0.7, getting closer. 1.95, so. Oh, come on. There, 2 ounces. And again, if you don't have a scale, I haven't really measured how much that is. It's that much. So, yeah, a kitchen scale is just very handy to have, especially for recipes like this, especially if you're a baker. I do recommend one. Christmas is coming up for those who celebrate and get and receive gifts. And, Halloween is trans Christmas, so have your cis friends buy you presents. I'm just kind of breaking this up into chunks, not getting it, not worrying about it being too small because it's in a food processor, which is going to chew it up. Okay, so I'm going to run that. Actually, I'm going to add the salt and pepper as well. So, of course, I just use my 1 teaspoon here with liquids and stuff, so I'm going to rinse it out real quick. So, teaspoon of salt. just going to eyeball the pepper because that's just how I am. I never actually measure. I probably add too much black pepper to things, but that's about right. Okay, so I'm going to grind this up a bit. And the reason why I added the salt and pepper there is so that the salt gets ground a little finer, and the pepper also gets ground finer. Because you don't want to get a big chunk of pepper if you can avoid it. Alright, so let me show you what this looks like right now. Basically, I just wanted to get things started. There's still a couple of big chunks of cheese in there. But I didn't want this to fully get ground down to a paste yet. Because there are other things that are going to go in there. Specifically, the 3 cups of basil. Now, this is basil out of my garden. If you're anything like me, first of all, sorry. You have my commiserations, and are you okay? Anyway, but if you're anything like me, you have a ton of basil, and it's getting close to the first frost, and once the first frost hits, you're going to lose all of it. So you might see a couple of yellower leaves here. Those are just the ones from the bottoms of the shrubs. But I picked these about 4 o'clock today, so a couple hours ago. And I'm just going to dump all of that in there. Now, it's probably not all, I'm going to have to open it up and squish it down in. But oh, and the original recipe says 3 cups of loosely packed fresh basil. Your definition of loosely packed may be different than mine. I packed it in reasonably well, but not like squished down to be fully compressed or anything. So. All right. So I'm going to scrape the sides here. And again, it's starting to become that paste that gives it its name. And yeah, mostly what I'm looking for right now is if there are any big chunks that need to be kind of broken up. But nope, all the cheese got ground up pretty finely there. Oh, and by the way, I want to say thank you to Morning Wind and Winter Vespers for showing up to the role-playing game feed that I ran last weekend for side quests. We had a great time. I'm so glad you were able to make it. That went so much better than I had hoped. But let me turn this on again. All right. So let me take this out and you can take a look here. See, this is all now ground finely to a paste. Let me show you. When I scrape the sides, you can actually see there. Very thin, very fine. Now I do see like one leaf on the outside. I'm not worried about that. Just adds a little bit of texture to it. And Winter Vespers and Morning Wind are saying that they had a lot of fun watching it. Like I say, it was a great stream. I had never run that game before, which is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to run it. Normally, with that show, I would run a practice session at the very least, or make sure it's something that I knew pretty well. This time I was going in kind of blind, and it was... Fortunately, I had amazing players. I would play with any of those folks ever again. I mean, Jen, I've played with several times before. I've been in games that she's run, and she's amazing. She's doing fantastic things over there at All on the Table. But all of those players are great. So yes. Speaking of which, I believe the next season of the Vigilantes Union number 13 is also coming out sometime soon. That one's pre-recorded, unfortunately, so not much interaction there, but it is a lot of fun. But anyway, yes, thank you very much for being there. It was wonderful to have that support, so I really appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna let this. I'm just gonna pulse this for a couple seconds just to make sure everything's in there. All right, scrape the sides again, and then I'm gonna add in the olive oil, and I'm going to do that in a kind of tricky way, which is, let me measure it out, and then I'll show you the tricky way I'm doing it. And like I say, there's a few more light-colored pieces of basil in this, so just make sure you can see this. So the color, oftentimes, like if you make this during summer, you'll get a just vibrant green color to it. So, all right. And I want 2/3 of a cup. And they do say extra virgin olive oil, but don't go nuts. This is not where you need to necessarily spend your money on this. Spend it on the cheese and the pine nuts. All right, so again, taking out this little piece here, and I'm going to start up, and I'm going to slowly add the oil to it. And what that's going to do is create an emulsion, which will basically keep the solids in there. Even though it's a paste, it's still pretty much a solid, but it will keep that suspended in the oil. So, hopefully, anyway. And you can't really see this, but I'm just doing a thin drizzle of the oil. You can see how long it's taking me. I think I've only added about half of it. And scrape the sides again, mix it a little bit more, and then we're done. And obviously, if you don't have 3 cups of basil on hand, you can scale this up or down really easily. If you don't feel like doing math, you use Excel. That's how I do it. But yeah, like I say, I just go out there and whatever if I can pick 3 cups, that's great. If I can't pick, if I get like a cup and a half, I just divide everything in half and make a half batch. It's plenty for dinner. Let's see. Winter Vesper says that pesto looks a lot like what I think I remember seeing in restaurants so many years ago. Yeah, it's been a long time since we've been able to eat in restaurants. I'm glad you think it looks good. I'm glad with it too. All right, so let me run it one more time very quickly here, and then. All right. So. That's what it looks like now. Here, actually, let me get some of this out of here and into a dish so you can see it a little bit better. And by dish, I mean Tupperware. Because, as I said, this is my, I'm making a batch. It's going to go in the freezer, and then I'm going to use all winter long. And I'm going to get a different spatula. Well, here, I'll just pour some in for right now, and I'll put the rest of the way later. Because also, you may be wondering what you do with this now that you've got pesto. Well, what I do with it, and what I'm going to be doing with it later on tonight, is making about 3 portions of pasta, of dried pasta, boiling that, and cooking about half a pound of chicken Italian sausage. Acerno's is the brand here. Local brand. They're not a sponsor, but could be if they wanted to. And basically fry up the sausage, cook up the pasta, combine the two, pour pesto over it until it's green. And that's our dinner. And once you have the pasta done, it takes like 20 minutes at most, and that includes, the time when the pasta's boiling and all of that. So it's a easy, easy late night, or not late night, easy weeknight dinner. And I keep, the pasta and the sauce and the sausage on hand at most times. So when I haven't prepared anything, I just grab stuff and go. So this is what it looks like, just sitting in the container. See how I guess it's flowing a little bit, but anyway. And that's it. Now, let's see. Morning Wind says, I once saw a cooking show where they froze their pesto in an ice cube tray for portioning. And yes, that is, I've seen that done as well. And that would probably be smarter of me. The only problem I have is because I keep it for such a long time, it gives more surface area for ice crystals to form on. And so I prefer not to do it that way. I just put it in these nice, flat, wide, containers. They'll thaw pretty easily in the microwave without, cooking the basil in there. Even if the basil does get a little cooked, it's still fine. But anyway, yeah. So yes. So that's what I'm doing with it later on tonight. But the other thing I was thinking, well, what do people do with pesto other than make pasta with it? Because I don't want to take time to do that now and then have it sit there while I make the last drink. Well, one thing I heard about was, or what I thought about, was just adding it to cream cheese to make a quick, easy dip. So let's give that a try. I've never actually done it before, but we'll see what it's like. So, I'm stretching stuff out here. Let me tidy up a bit so I can kind of get this all back to square one at least. Using a lot of Trader Joe's stuff tonight. All right, here, let's set this over here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to grab I looked online a little bit for this, and they were saying 2 parts pesto to 4 parts of the, I guess it's basically 2 parts of the cream cheese to 1 part pesto. And I'm going to assume that's accurate. They were saying like 2 tablespoons to 4 tablespoons of pesto, or of cream cheese. 4 tablespoons is a 1/4 cup, so I'll do that here. And this is just a little plunger. And maybe I'll use a spoon for this. This is, by the way, how I test things in preparation for the show usually. So you're getting a little behind the curtains look. That I just, make small batches of things, try it out. If it works, great. If not, I'll know for next time. Let's see. Morning. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I've heard people have said that I tend to approach things with a scientist, point of view, which is probably true. Sorry, Morning Wind was complimenting me on my storage reasons, and I like, and a lot of it does come from my time in the lab, because if you have chemicals or things that you're working with that cost tens of $1,000s a gram, then you have to be careful with that because they won't buy you more. So that's one of the things you start thinking about, and it's a little bit like I keep the plumbing going in this house because I set up a lot of lab equipment, and that is virtually indistinguishable from plumbing. All right, so that is a 1/4 cup of cream cheese. A little bit left in the spoon. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Here's there. All right, and we're going to add to that. I said stay closed. All right. All right. I'll scrape that out later. I'll just kind of mush this together. And I have seen some hors d'oeuvres where there's, like a dollop of cream cheese and a dollop of pesto on top, artfully arranged on the cracker, so that you all prepared in advance. And the thing with that is that your crackers are going to get soggy pretty fast, and you'll either make too many or too few, and you don't want food waste, but you also don't want people to go hungry. So I don't know. It looks pretty, but if you're doing it as an amuse-bouche, maybe that would work, where you're only going to give each person 1 or 2. That would make sense. But I don't know. I prefer to make things ahead of time and let people just serve themselves. That way they can get more of what they want and leave behind stuff they don't want. All right. I think that if I were to do this in a larger batch, I might use some sort of mixing device as opposed to just a spoon, because I'm not getting a very homogeneous dispersion of the pesto in there. And now I'm thinking about lab stuff. I'm starting to use lab terms. All right, so that's good enough for now. I'm going to get some onto a cracker and see what it tastes like. So, anyway, I'm still a little bit off. I'm still off my game. I think last week went pretty well, except for the fact that I couldn't make the cake. I think we're going pretty well this week. One of these days I will get my feet under me and then look out. All right. So I'm saying right away, it's a little on the oily side, which is to be expected, because there's, basically the olive oil in the pesto keeps everything fluid right off the bat, But then you add cream cheese to it, and it's going to get even more fluid, and so it's going to get a little oily, but that's okay. See what it tastes like. It's nice. The cream cheese is a nice neutral base for it. Definitely the flavor of the pesto comes right through on that. So I think that's a winner. If you want a nice, easy order for folks when they come over, or a nice, easy spread for them, I wouldn't say this is a dip because it's a little too thick for that, but it is a good consistency for a spread. This is a good way to go, especially if you already have the stuff on hand. Lori likes the cream cheese for bagels, and so do I. And then the pesto we keep in the freezer. So yeah, it's nice to have. Could make it if I just chunked everything in a Cuisinart, then be ready to go in like 5 minutes. So. And if Lori wants to come out here and try it, she can. Let's see. Not sure necessarily goes with the Not-a-Colada, but it's not too bad. They don't clash, really. It's just not the same. Going from the Caribbean to Italy, and not really the same flavor palette. But, all right, I will put this away for storage later. In the meantime, we have one more drink to make. And I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have the camera pointed over here that you can't see all the stuff I'm putting away. Okay. As we all know, the worst part of cooking is actually cleaning up afterwards. So, all right. I am just about there. Okay. Well, so like I say, I'm going to be heading over to my brother's place next weekend, and is that mostly cleaned up? Yeah, it's cleaned up enough. And we're going to do the big apple squishing. There's also the Issaquah Salmon Days Festival, which is not too far away, and if I have energy, I'm going to probably go to that. Anyone else have anything big planned for the weekend or next week? Oh, this thing here. Winter Vesper says that looks like like it would be a wonderful finger food for watching TV and movies. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think this would be fantastic for that. Like I say, easy to prepare. Just 2 ingredients if you already have the pesto made. And, yeah. All right. I, of course, buried my cutting board here because I am clever. All right. Let me get that back out. Here's my knife. All right. Well, I did literally just use this knife to cut the cheese. I was in for some electrolysis this last week, and Carlos, who's my electrolysist, and hello Carlos, if you're out there watching, was playing some podcasts. And the first 3, it was a podcast about medicine, because it was a husband and wife pair, and the husband it was a big podcaster. He did a bunch of different things, and the wife was a doctor, and so they were doing a podcast about historical medicine. Very interesting. The first, it was only like a half hour long. So like the first 3 we listened to were a collection about pirate medicine, which was fascinating, actually. But then the fourth one was about basically the wife had been busy at the hospital during the time they were recording this, and so she let her husband pick the topic and do the research on it and go into it. And so he, of course, chose one on farting, and it was fine. I didn't mind it. It was vaguely amusing, but I could hear Carlos snickering every now and again, and I got to tease him afterwards about it being part of his trans-masculine transition. I'm going through transfem. I got the sense of humor of a 12-year-old girl, so he gets the 12-year-old boy sense of humor. So, although Lori has a sense of humor of a 12-year-old boy on occasion, so I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, so, second drink. What am I doing? I should probably tell you what we're making. I'm off my game, I tell you. Alright, what we're making last is called a Jack Rose. I'll probably need this. So, I bought some Applejack. I'm going to use it. And this is sort of the quintessential Applejack cocktail, as far as I know. It was invented around 1905 by Frank J. May, or at least he's credited that way in the Police Gazette. And he was credited as that in that same year. So that's the first recorded history of this drink. There's also, furthering the cop connection here, a news article in 1913 that says the popularity of the drink had fallen due to the involvement of the famous gangster or possibly gambler Bald Jack Rose in the Rosenthal murder case. Which, by the way, look up the Rosenthal murder case. It is wild. It has Jewish gangsters and police corruption and a illegal. It takes place during just before Prohibition. Later on, some of the same people are involved in Prohibition, and there is a mobster who complains to the local paper that his illicit craps tables are being too heavily leaned on by the police who want bribes, and needless to say, that was Rosenthal who got murdered. Anyway, very interesting. So a lot of people thought that the drink was named for Bald Jack Rose, but he rose to basically the drink was invented before he was born or before he rose to prominence. So it's very unlikely. So there are a lot of other theories about where this drink got its name. The only one that makes a lot of sense to me is that it's made with apple jack, and it's kind of a rose color from the grenadine, and that's kind of how it, as far as we can tell, got its name. Which is sad because there's some really fanciful ones out there. This drink appears in Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, because Hemingway drank a lot. And it was also apparently a favorite of John Steinbeck. Unfortunately, it fell out of favor over the years, and it wasn't until the craft cocktail revival that it really got, it rose to prominence again. And even then, it's pretty rare. I think it was 2006. There were a couple of reporters who had learned about the drink and went around Washington, D.C.'s bar scene looking for bartenders who could actually make them one, and they couldn't find anyone. They couldn't find anyone who both knew how to make it and had Applejack on hand to make it. So eventually they bought a bottle of Applejack and took it to one of the bartenders who said they knew how to make it. Which is a shame because it's a good drink and it's only 3 ingredients, so it's remarkably easy. And I will make one now. So, I'm going to start with 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. Use my usual trick here. Hopefully this lemon has a full... No, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. Well, not cheat. This is how you're supposed to do it. I'm going to pull out this thing here. And just squeeze it that way, because these are very thick-walled lemons, and if I try and squeeze it by hand, we'll be here all day. All right. So, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. And now 3/4 of an ounce of my homemade grenadine. And maybe a little bit more than 3/4 of an ounce. Actually, no. Just about perfect. All right. And now 2 ounces of Applejack. And that's all there is to it. And as I mentioned on the previous show, Applejack is basically an American apple brandy, also known as Jersey Lightning, apparently, because this is what they were making in New Jersey as opposed to the White Lightning up in the Appalachians, I guess. I'm not sure. Again, originally made by making hard cider and then freezing it and then taking the ice off until it concentrated down. So you could only make it in the winter. Winter Vesper says, it seems like a very appropriate drink for autumn. Absolutely. It's, like I say, last year I was kind of struggling to find autumn drinks because I couldn't find a bottle of this Applejack. And again, for those who weren't here last week or just watching this episode out of context, first of all, you have to tune into all of them to make sure you catch the plot line. Otherwise, you're never going to figure out what's going on. But the other thing is that I was highly recommended Lard's 100. Lard's is the company that makes basically the best. Well, I don't want to say the best. They make the most common or the most Applejack in the country, as far as I can tell. They're one of the few people who actually make this. You can find Calvados, which is the French version of this, which is apparently slightly different. And you can look up online the differences. I don't have them listed here. But what was highly recommended to me was Lard's 100, and that's Lairds, by the way. I'm probably mispronouncing it. But Laird's probably. But Laird's 100 is, 100% pure apple brandy, but it's 100 proof, which is pretty strong. And I, don't drink as much as I used to. I didn't really want to, overpower my drinks. So this year they came out with the Straight Applejack 86, which is also pure apple brandy, but only at 86 proof. Their other apple brandies have neutral grain spirits in them, which means they make the stronger Applejack and then, they make a lower proof Applejack and then get the proof up by adding neutral grain spirits, which of course dilutes the flavor down. This is 100% apple brandy. They just stopped it at 86, which I'm happy about. So let me add some ice to this. Still not super happy with our new ice maker, but it's what I'm using for right now, and it does okay. It's fine. All right. All right. And just grate it in here. I'm using a different coupe. I love these coupe glasses, but they're not quite as large as my standard ones. And this drink makes a little, basically if I put it into the, my usual ones, it doesn't quite fill it up. This unfortunately fills it up a little bit too much. I was giving that a try. Just garnishing it with a couple of raspberries that I found out in the garden. And which of course immediately fall in. Let me see if I can get it set up on the back camera here. Let's see. Here. Here we go. This worked before. There we go. All right. I'm giving up on that. All right. But that's what it looks like. As you can see, it has that lovely rose color. And let me give this a try and see how it looks. First, I'm going to fish the garnish out. Should have used a longer pick for this, but like I say, I don't use these coupes very often. They're very pretty, but all right, raspberries go very well with it. Cheers, everyone. And that is just a perfectly balanced drink. I mean, obviously it is a sour, technically, because it's got the citrus and the sugar and the base spirit. And it is just really well made. I shouldn't compromise. It is a really well designed drink. It's the apple, and as you saw, last week, the drinks also had applejack and grenadine. Apparently, the apple and pomegranate flavors just go well together. And like I say, those raspberries didn't hurt it. But let me take another sip and let you know how this actually, what the flavor profile is, if I can. So you can definitely taste the brandy in it. You don't get hit with alcohol right up front. And it never actually really comes to the fore, but it's kind of like there's a low note that says this drink has alcohol in it. But really what you get up front, and let me make sure I've got this. Is you get that sort of lemony tang blended with the pomegranate, and it resolves into more of that apple flavor, but it's like it's apple with almost a strawberry, or I guess in this case it's probably the pomegranate, but it like a tangier version because of the lemon. All the notes play well together. Normally they separate out a little bit. Here they're all just kind of vibing, I guess is the best way to put it. It's just a really harmonious, lovely drink and easy to make. The trickiest part of this whole thing is finding applejack, and now is the time to do it because, as I think it was Winter Vesper said, apple drinks are big in the fall because now is when you harvest apples. And so our palates have been kind of customized to accept apple flavors in the fall, especially. But if you're looking for a bottle of Applejack, now is the time to buy it because now is when it's in the stores. And this will last you through the winter. Well, depending on how much you drink, I suppose. But yeah, no, it is a lovely drink. I am so glad that I finally found this, and thank you to Laird's for making a reasonably proofed, apple brandy. So, um, so I think that's about it for tonight. I guess next episode is the Halloween Spooktacular. I never did actually find a costume for it, so I think I have a dress that'll work. But we'll see. We'll see in 2 weeks. In the meantime, I hope you all have a great time and have a happy autumn. Cheers, everyone. Thanks.